I was at my desk, enjoying a mid-morning coffee. I was enjoying my morning coffee, which my assistant had brought over, though she'd sweetened it with that artificial stuff. I half-joked that if she kept using it, I'd switch to black. My mind was wrapped around a thorny copyright issue that needed swift resolution, but as usual, the federal office was dragging its feet with the release of sensitive documents. It felt like each paper had to pass through a dozen hands before any real action was taken. I was stuck, unable to push forward on the next project and facing potential. If we had to scrap these items, the rise of bureaucratic red tape and shifting regulations was making even the simplest tasks complex. I felt every bit of my age. This was a young man's game. "There's a young woman here to see you," said Sarah, stepping into my office. She didn't have a name, just this photo. My stomach dropped as I glanced at it. "Son of a gun," I muttered. "Why now?" It was an old wedding photo, near 18 years old, showing me and Diana, my ex. My wife seeing it brought back memories of betrayal, heartbreak, and all the assumptions people made when I returned. Back then, I didn't understand power or money, but I'd learned. I told Sarah, handing her a USB in a Ziploc bag, to ask her if she's Anna or Emma. I said, "Show her the video on that, and if she wants a copy, let her have it. Bring the original back to me, though." At 42, I'd embraced being a bachelor. My marriage to Diana Warren had broken my trust. I decided that people had to earn it, and most just couldn't. I was 6 feet 4 inches and 200 lb, with a 38 in waist. I kept in shape by spending 2 hours in the gym after work. My hair was a brownish black, and it was starting to gray a bit, but I could still turn a few heads. I kept things casual. I wasn't interested in serious relationships. Marriage and love just weren't for me anymore. An hour later, Sarah came back, leaving the door slightly open. She still had questions. Her face showed her green eyes. I was waiting for her to ask, so I asked Emma. She said they'd been lied to all their lives. She was devastated. She cried, saying they were all misled. "If my hunch is correct, you might have been too." Emma, I explained, was part of a set of twins. The clip you watched was part of a set of twins. The clip you watched was part of a set of twins. The clip you watched was part of a set of twins. The clip you watched was part of a set of twins. The clip you watched was part of a set of twins. The clip you watched was part of a set of twins. The clip you watched was part of a set of twins. The clip you watched was part of a set of twins. The clip you watched was part of a set of twins. The clip you watched was part of a set of twins. The clip you watched was part of a set of twins. The clip you watched was part of a set of twins. The clip you watched was part of a set of twins. The clip you watched was part of a set of twins. The clip you watched was part of a set of twins. The clip you watched was part of a set of twins. The clip you watched was the rest of what's on that USB, outlines what would happen if I ever attempted contact. Diana's father, who used to be high up in the CIA, had me fired from the FBI with falsified charges. He'd always hated me. The record suggests there's a contract on my life if I interfere with them. She divorced me to marry my former best friend, someone she'd been seeing for months. He's likely the twins' biological father. How'd she even find me, and what does she want? I asked, perplexed. Emma had discovered and I found an old photo in their attic with my name on it. I Googled myself, recognized who I was, and found the marriage certificate and divorce papers. I traced her through Facebook and other web searches. She was looking for a bone marrow match for her twin sister, who's running out of time. But why come to me? I replied, "I'm not their father." It didn't add up. Emma had sensed something wasn't right. Her suspicions led to DNA tests during the bone marrow screening, which revealed Sarah gave me a knowing look. Her expression softened. "If Emma's right, it means Diana lied to you all those years ago," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I knew she was yours the second I saw her," Sarah added, standing up. "It's something in the look. I've already told my publishers to send the info on the USB to you. I want them to make sure it's released without any connection to my name, and that it has to go public quickly. I want it known, but I can't have it traced back to me. Then arrange a fast DNA test and get me an appointment if I'm their father. Father, I want it in writing before I confront Diana. If that's true, find me a lawyer. I'll need one to fight for my rights and clear my schedule. I need to get to the hospital where Anna is being treated." "Got it," Sarah replied, already turning to leave. "All right, let's meet Emma." I called out to Sarah. I introduced her to Sarah, and as soon as I saw her, I could see she looked a lot like my younger sister at 16. I got a bit emotional. We both started crying. Sarah took a few pictures on her phone to capture the moment, and then left us to talk. You and Emma have a 1-to-1. There's a 000 appointment for blood testing. They said it'd be quick, and I've charged it to the corporate card. Sarah told me when she got back, and I've also set up a meeting with Claire, your sister, at Cells 3. I've booked a private table for Emma so she can see what we do. Claire knows you've got important family news. I stood there looking at Emma as she approached, feeling emotions I hadn't felt in years. I felt like I had done so many years without this kind of contact. I held her close, trying to take in this sudden reality. There were so many questions racing through my mind. We left my office side by side, each of us cautious but hopeful, taking slow steps to figure out this new F connection. After arranging for the clinic to email us the results, we headed out for a late lunch. Uncertain but ready to face whatever lay ahead, I'd found out that she'd skipped school and driven for hours, finally stopping to rest at a station. I was pretty annoyed she'd done something that risky, but I bit back my anger, feeling the twinge of an overprotective dad, even though I hadn't fully embraced that role yet. It reminded me of something I might have done myself at her age. When we arrived at the clinic, I spotted my sister's car parked out front. I knew we were here. Emma said, "To meet your sister." Why did Sarah set this up without telling you first? You'll see in a second. What Sarah and I saw when we first met. That's why we're here. It'll show why we believe you and Anna are my daughters. The test confirmed what I'd hoped. Can I call you Dad? I couldn't help but laugh. I'd love that SS was a cozy family. The restaurant was well known for being a cut above the rest, with a great reputation and a warm atmosphere. The owner greeted us and took us straight to our private booth. I ordered a bottle of champagne and a box of tissues, as I had a feeling we'd need them. Claire was already there with her back to us, so I told Emma to wait while I went over. "Hey, thanks for coming," Slay said, looking up. "You look way too happy." "What's going on? Stand up. I want you to meet someone." I gestured for Emma to come over. "Claire, this is Emma. Emma is Diana's daughter." Clay was stunned. Her expression shifted as she took in Emma's face. They looked eerily alike. Long brunette hair, high cheekbones, and those same light blue eyes. "Oh my goodness," Claire gasped. "Trevor, you could have warned me. This is unreal." 5 hours, Emma said with a nervous laugh. "That's how long I've known him. I just surprised him at his office." Sarah and Dad recognized me immediately. "Seeing you, I get why." Now the server brought tissues just in time as Emotions California wiped away tears and called her husband to join us. She also contacted our parents to let them know it was a family emergency. Our mom wanted to know what had happened, but CLA just said it was something they needed to see for themselves. I got a text from Sarah, the publisher, shortly after. She told me the information would be released and it would air on the 6th. We'd just sat down with our first glass of champagne when Claire's husband arrived with our parents. I laughed as I heard my dad's voice booming from across the restaurant. "This had better be good," he called out when they reached our table. I stood to greet them. "Mom, Dad, Lou," I said, introducing Emma, Diana's daughter. My mom gasped, instantly seeing the resemblance. A huge smile spread across her face. She'd always wanted a granddaughter, and now here she was. My dad, who's usually pretty composed, was left speechless. He eventually managed to find his... My mom sat beside Emma, taking her hand, and she was so overwhelmed she couldn't say much. My dad ordered 2 more bottles of champagne, and you could see how proud he was, with glasses refilled. I stood to make an announcement. I wanted to explain what had happened. I started by telling Emma and everyone at the table how I'd met her earlier that day. Then my dad stood up and addressed the group. "Emma, we don't need a DNA test to confirm what's already obvious. Welcome to the family. You'll get to meet your other aunt soon. Just promise you'll always think of this family as your home." Emma took the phone and spoke into it. She seemed moved. "I came here to find out the truth. I wasn't sure what I'd discover, but today has changed everything for my dad and me. Love is, and I know my twin sister Anna will feel the same." I glanced around the table, watching as the moment hit each person. Even my dad, who rarely showed his feelings, had tears in his eyes. Mom raised her fingers, mouthing the word "too," and we all laughed through our tears. Emma added her and her sister's info to my contacts, then texted Anna, including a video clip of the day's events. Her message read, "If what we think is true, the DNA test will confirm it. Watch the 6. I saw on the news that my twin is in the news. My mom is still overwhelmed. She asked if it was all real. Emma showed her photos of herself and Anna. My mom asked for copies. She displayed them on her laptop for everyone to see. After a bit, Emma put her phone away. I realized that no one back home knew where she was. Just then, my phone rang. It was Anna. I stepped away to take the call. I took the call, noticing my dad's questioning look. It was my sister Emma. I mouthed, "It's me." My dad nodded, and I answered, "Hello, this is Anna. I just saw the video and had to call. I won't be home until 7 or so. I'm stopping at the police station for an update on Emma. The police came by earlier and left their card. Do you have any idea what I should do? Should I tell them to watch the 6000 news and see what's revealed about me? Then let him know you'll talk when your parents aren't around and show him the video. If you need to give him my number and ask him to text before calling. After they see the news, they'll understand. Once we confirm with DNA, Emma and I might bring everyone together." "Everyone?" Anna asked family. I said simply, "Blood ties mean everything. If I'm not a match, maybe someone else will be." "You think so?" Anna sounded doubtful. "No question." I replied with a small laugh, "You'll see we're strangers now, but not for long." We talked a bit more before hanging up. After we ordered dinner, I explained to everyone why Emma was there. Soon, phones were buzzing as family members reached out, spreading the word and rallying potential donors. My mom took over organizing everything as only she could. My dad asked, "How'd you get here?" With a laugh, Emma said, "I drove my old '94 Voyager van." She was referring to her van, which was barely a step above a rental. "It's a rental car, parked in my dad's lot." "That van's not going to cut it," Dad replied, shaking his head. "First thing tomorrow, take it over to my dealership. You're not driving back in that thing." I chuckled at her age. "Dad, you had about as much sense." "As she is, she's got grit," he said with a grin. "So what do you plan to get her?" I asked. "Let her pick," he replied, winking. Emma's face lit up. "If I could choose, I'd get a 4X4, she said eagerly. "I'm all about the outdoors," she added. My dad chuckled. "Well, the family is really into the outdoors. If it was warm, we were fishing, camping, or hiking." He started reminiscing about that summer I learned to water ski and go barefoot, sharing stories like he was on a roll. Both my parents insisted Emma stay with them overnight, thinking it would look better than her staying with me after dinner. Dad drove her to pick up her van and brought it back to his place while Mum started planning. She could really spoil her new granddaughter around 10 p.m. I got a call from the police investigator. He said it had taken him a couple of hours to run a background check on me as the media was asking questions about the story we'd released. We talked through the situation and I explained that we were waiting for DNA confirmation and that Emma was with my parents. I let him know that. As soon as we had the confirmation, I'd take her back to see if I could be a match for Anna. He agreed to buy us some time and promised to update me if anything changed. Later, I found out he'd passed this information on to Anna, keeping her in the loop. Confronting my past felt different this time. I wasn't intimidated by my ex. I had the truth on my side, and I was prepared to use the media, the courts, and every piece of evidence we gathered. It wasn't revenge. I wanted justice and a chance to set things right. The next morning, I went to my office to make sure my absence wouldn't disrupt anything. I left Sarah in charge, and she checked emails like a hawk, grilling me about every detail of the day. I couldn't help but admire her. She was striking with her naturally styled brown hair, emerald green eyes, and an ageless elegance that I was still caught up in it. Even though I sometimes felt a pull of attraction, I was grateful she never caught me staring. Finally, she got the DNA results and printed them out. "Trevor," she said, "it's confirmed you're her father." I was really angry at my wife, her husband, and her family for denying me my parental rights. The restrictive order barring me from seeing my daughters would be overturned, which would show that they had deliberately manipulated things over the years. Our lawyer saw a huge opportunity even before taking on the government's involvement. I told Sarah to send a dusty gray box from my safe to the lawyer. It contained hard evidence, showing how Diana's father had tried to destroy my career in marriage. It had taken years to gather these. Documents from various government sources had finally come to light. Then the news broke that the police officer had released a video showing a runaway daughter reuniting with her father to save her sister. The media frenzy began when I called my mum. I felt overwhelmed. "Mum, it's official. I'm a father twice over," I said. "Thank God," she cried. "I'll spread the word." I was ready to leave at 7 tomorrow morning from the car lot. We were soon on the road to Igo, New York, in a fully loaded 2. It's been a year. We were in an old Ford Explorer with my parents following in a tour bus and 33 other cars behind us. Our family and quite a few friends were on a mission as we drove. My phone rang. Emma answered and put it on speaker. "You're being tracked by CNN," Anna's voice said, and we all greeted her. Emma replied, sounding proud. "There's a big tour bus up front with a banner saying the Williams are coming. 1 out of 141 might be a match. We've got the DNA test proving he's our father," Dad said. "If it's confirmed, the family will rally." Anna's voice softened. "It gives me more hope than I ever imagined. I met a bunch of relatives this morning, first, second, even third cousins. It's hard to believe. I'm so proud. I want to change my last name to Williams," Emma said with a hint of wonder. "I never knew families like this existed. I was so emotional, I went off the road. And that's when I knew I had to write this into my next book." Anna had to cut our call short when her mother entered the room, but Emma could sense my emotions and asked, "Dad, are you all right? How do you think I feel?" I replied, "I just discovered I have 2 daughters, raised by my ex. My wife and an old friend have been talking behind my back. One of them is really vibrant and full of life, while the other is fighting for hers." "Emma, you've been strong and independent. You've moved mountains on your own, just like I would have done. Now you want to carry my name." I added my voice, breaking. Emma squeezed my hand. "I was so focused on saving my sister that I didn't consider what this would mean for you." She said quietly, "I wasn't a good match for Anna because of a defective gene. From her mom, I apologized for the chaos I'd caused," I said with a smile, tears filling my eyes. "You've given us all a new reason to care. Emma, you've given me a chance to be a dad. Your grandparents already adore you. Seeing your mom's face in yours means the world to them. You've both become her pride and joy." Emma laughed. "She's already been spoiling us. If she bought me something, she'd get a memento for Anna too, just to make up for lost time," I replied, laughing, "and good luck trying to keep her at arm's length. Trust me, I've tried. Claire and my sisters will be talking about this for ages. It's the kind of family legend they'll be passing down for years." We soon heard that Diana had seen the news feed and had a panic attack. Her carefully constructed world was unraveling. Anna, feeling emboldened, confronted her right away. "Mom," Anne demanded, "why did you hide the truth about our real dad?" Diana was silent. Caught off guard, Anna pressed on. Her voice was thick with emotion. "You hid the truth from us. You made decisions about our lives. Who gave you the right to decide? Even Dad didn't know if Emma hadn't dug for the truth. Would you have let me die?" Diana had no response. She'd never expected her secrets to see the light of day. Her father's vendetta against me had pushed him to drastic lengths. He'd severed my connection to my daughters just then. Anna's doctor entered, providing we needed a distraction, so we got DNA from a man we didn't know who turned out to be Anna's biological father. He'll be here tomorrow for testing, and he might be a bone marrow match. We've arranged for security. Mom, my biological dad is on his way with 140 others, just in case he's not a match. Heck is willing to risk his life to save mine." Anna told her why. Diana asked, her voice barely audible. She gave him a quick nudge and a wink to let him know she was on his side. "I may be a stranger to you, but to them I'm family, and family always comes first. You should have known. We look just like our biological grandmother here. Watch this video. It'll prove everything." Diana watched the video showing my family meeting Emma for the first time. She couldn't deny it. 3 generations of shared features. Anna's expressions showed what she was thinking. She was trying to hide the truth, but it was obvious from the evidence in front of her. Then a man appeared at Anna's doorway asking for Diana. She admitted who she was, and he handed her a large legal envelope. He said, "You've been served." Diana felt her niece sobbing, but Anna, filled with anger, felt no sympathy. She asked her mother, "Why did Grandpa put a contract out on my biological dad's?" Anna demanded to live, though she knew she wouldn't get an answer. Meanwhile, Fred, Diana's father, had just left a corporate meeting when he was served legal papers. He sat down in the reception area and opened the documents. The first was a lawsuit against him and his wife for obstructing my parental rights. The second accused him and his. The lawsuit accused my family of plotting to ruin my marriage and career. I wasn't seeking revenge. I was fighting for justice and the right to be in my daughters' lives. If Emma hadn't come forward, I would have never known they existed. I argued that Diana and Justin's secrecy, could have cost Anna her life, with the media coverage defending themselves. In court, it would be tricky. Fred thought back to his college days, when they were roommates and football teammates, both of them trying to win Diana's attention. He'd eventually got her to notice him, and Fred had even been his best man. Diana's father didn't like Fred, though, because of his background. When Justin eventually sided with Fred, they set things in motion. Justin and Diana and I grew close while I was away on FBI assignments. Eventually, their affair began while I was on an undercover mission. When I returned, Diana's father confronted me with the evidence, and I filed for divorce immediately. I didn't know she was pregnant with the twins. When Emma and I finally arrived at our hotel that night, it was close to 9. We'd been on the road for over 14 hours and everyone was tired. We ordered a quick meal to our rooms and got some much-needed sleep until 5 morning. I got up at 5 and Emma and I left for the meeting at 6. I had a private meeting with a police officer and an FBI representative while the rest of the family left around 7 for the final stretch. Emma dropped me off at the IGO Police Department, where I met Detective Peter Rogers and FBI agent Chad Jarrow. We discussed Diana's father's I told them about the legal steps I was taking, and left them with my lawyer's contact details and a USB drive with the evidence we'd gathered. They said they'd make sure I was safe during my stay and arrange a security escort to and from the hospital. When I got to the hospital, I was taken to the lab for a blood test to see if I could be a bone marrow match. When I got to Anna's room, a nurse who knew me by my pen name asked me to sign a book for her. It felt pretty strange when I walked in and saw Emma, who said, "Dad, you're early. Anna, this is our dad, Trevor Williams." She introduced me to Anna, who looked pretty weak, her skin loose, and her face tired. But she still seemed hopeful. They're doing the test right away, and we should have the results in about 30 minutes. The results should be ready in about 30 minutes. I told the rest of the family they could check into their hotels, and my parents are getting their bone marrow drawn too. If there's more than one match, the doctor plans to do a double transplant in both arms. Anna was overwhelmed, so I sat with her and held her while she regained her composure. Emma quietly took a photo of us together. It was a moment of relief and joy. I'd never expected to see my 2 daughters, my grandmother, and my grandfather together again. Emma called out, and the 5 of us talked for over an hour. When Anna's doctor came in, I told him my mother and I are both matches for Anna. He looked at us and said, "Are you both ready to be checked in for surgery at 6:00?" The next morning, my mom and I said yes, and my dad whispered a quiet thank you under his breath. We prayed for a miracle on the way up. "Don't you need my parents' permission?" Anna asked. Her voice was shaky, but normally yes, but a court order allows us to proceed if a biological parent or close relative is a match. Dr. Hunt explained that your father, Mr. Williams, has arranged to cover any costs not covered by insurance, Emma said with a smile. I'm not surprised. Legally, Dad had no rights before, but after what Mom and Fred did, he had no choice. He used the courts to make sure nothing could stop this. Just then, a security guard came in and told us that we were about to be on national news. Anna switched on CNN, where they revealed my identity as a best-selling author. The author, Emma, Anna, and even Dr. Hunt stared at me. My parents looked equally shocked. They'd always thought I was just an independent corporate advisor. Dad, I've read all your books. They're amazing, Anna said, still processing. I laughed when my old life fell apart. I reinvented myself. Writing was my escape. The first book's success was a turning point. I've used my books to tell the truth and expose the real state of the world. I've done this even when it's uncomfortable for people to hear. This is the first time I've done this in 15 years. I checked into a hospital, but my new daughter wanted to share a room with me. Hospital security had other plans, so Emma spent the night running back and forth between 3 different rooms. My dad called family members to update them on the situation, while Diana and Justin arrived after work and faced cold indifference. Anna met them with a firm resolve. I'm scheduled for surgery tomorrow to get a double bone marrow transplant under a court order, Diana asked, unable to hide her shock. Mom, Dad, my biological father and his mother are both perfect matches. They're donating so I can receive a full transplant. Anna replied calmly, Mom, do you know who Logan Hawthorne is? Heck is your favorite author, but that's Dad's pen name, Trevor Williams. I wanted justice. I'd always believed in truth and fairness, which had made me a successful agent until they destroyed that career. Mom, did you know your father's been an FBI agent all day? Anna asked, a knowing smile on her face. You might want to check with Grandma to see if he's home yet. Emma and I have a few questions. Care to explain why all this is happening? If you're looking for Emma, she's probably either in Dad's room or visiting Grandma Patterson, she added. Emma and I were in my hospital room discussing how she'd approach her mother when Diana arrived. A knock on the door interrupted us and a security guard peeked in. Mr. Williams, there's a visitor, he announced as he opened the door, allowing Sarah to step inside. Sarah had been by my side for 10 years, through thick and thin. She'd leaned on me through a rough divorce after her husband left her for his. She was still wearing her wedding ring. Even though she was 35 and had been adjusting to single life, my family adored her, and I sometimes wondered why she hadn't moved on. What are you doing here? I asked with a smile. I'm here to do what I do best, look after you. Dr. Hunt said you'll be here for at least 3 days, and recovery will take a week for light activity. I booked a private jet and a hotel room for us with a corporate card. Cal as ever, Emma replied. Just wanted to give you a quick heads up, Dad. She loves you. She couldn't stay away. I raised an eyebrow, amused. Just then, the guard knocked again. Diana and Justin Bray are here. Can you let them in? He asked. Sarah stepped in. Only if they're searched first, she insisted. What's your relationship to Mr. Williams? The guard asked. Sarah smirked. I'm his fiancée, she said, showing her ring with a grin. Emma shot me a knowing look, whispering she told you. I laughed, and then Diana and Justin. Dad, I wouldn't trust these two for a second. Emma warned me they're only here to cover their tracks. You have no idea, Sarah replied. Your dad's lawyer has footage showing your stepfather receiving checks from your grandfather. They paid him to break up your parents' marriage in return. He would oversee the family's finances, earning a hefty percentage each year. How do you know this? Diana demanded, her face pale. Who are you? She asked. Mom, she's Dad's fiancée and a top-notch investigator, Emma said firmly. My name's Sarah Russell, and I trust her more than I trust you. Diana's face went white, realizing her daughters were slipping away with nothing she could do. Sarah didn't waver. It's true, Diana said. I have all the video and audio evidence handed over to the FBI. There's even a letter from your father admitting to paying for those recordings. He hated me so much he didn't care what it cost or who he hurt to get what he wanted. Diana looked at Justin, searching his face for answers. She saw it in his expression. It was true, and she knew it. Diana turned back to me, her voice trembling. I realize now what I lost when you left. Trevor, you were the only man who ever truly cared about me. She glanced at Sarah. Here's a word of advice. Don't let anyone manipulate you like I did. Looking back at me, she added, Trevor, I want to speak to you alone after the surgery. Right now, I need to go home and think. Emma looked at me. I'll be right back, Dad. Sarah, keep an eye on him while I'm gone. We watched them leave, and Diana managed to stay calm until she stepped outside. Then she broke down in tears. Sarah and I shared a knowing look. Diana had been kept in the dark, but now it was all out in the open. Justin, who always had an easy life, was stunned into silence. His life was a mess after they left. I turned to Sarah, who was blushing for the first time. I felt something in that moment. I had a realization that I'd been blind to her feelings for too long. My daughters had awakened something in me, making me realize I'd been living in the background. I'd been finding happiness through others instead of creating my own. I began to realize that I needed to have a conversation with Sarah. We have a lot to discuss while I'm recovering. These last few days have woken me up. I'd settled for staying on the sidelines, but now I want to be in the game. Trevor, when I got divorced, you were there for me. My kids were young, and you were more of a father to them than their own dad. I want to make sure my kids are looked after. You go all out on their birthdays, make them feel special, and answer their questions like any father would. They love you, and so do I. I took her hand, thinking about how far I'd come. I was betrayed by everyone I trusted. I said, my voice full of emotion, that I'd protected myself for years without even realizing it. Now I'm ready. Sarah, can we go on our first real date, or is it too late? She smiled, pulling me close, and said, You old fool, she whispered, before kissing me. I'm texting the kids to let them know we're officially together. Pretty confident, aren't you? I teased, laughing. I texted Emma thanking her and checking in. She responded, Mom shattered. She didn't know any of this. She's staying away tonight. Let Anna know. So, Sarah and I went up to Anna's room, where I introduced Sarah as my girlfriend. We filled Anna in on what had happened and shared Emma's update. Just as we finished, my sister Celia entered the room. I had to see this with my own eyes. Sarah said, grinning. What are you doing here? I started to explain, but Claire caught me off guard. She finally figured it out, didn't she? She asked, chuckling. It took him long enough. Anna, this is your Aunt Clay, I said, gesturing to the man following her. And that's your Uncle Lou, Sela's husband. You'll learn fast that we Williamses speak our minds, like it or not. I excused myself to the nurse's station, where I texted Emma asking if she knew Anna's pizza preferences. She replied, everything but anchovies, and I quickly ordered 3 extra. I ordered a large pizza and a few 2L sodas for delivery. I also called Dad and asked him to bring Mom up in half an hour for an impromptu pizza party. We may have ignored the no eating for 8 hours rule, but everyone was too caught up in the excitement to care. The head nurse came into the room to quiet us down, but she left with a slice of pizza and a smile. Later, she stopped me in the hall and said, your family spirit has lifted everyone on this floor. I can't thank you enough at 4. It's 10 p.m. My mom and I were prepped for the operation. We held hands to support each other until we were under anesthesia. When I woke up, the procedure was done. Now we had to wait and hope for the best. Dr. Hunt told us that the bone marrow transfer had gone well, but it would take a few hours to know for sure. Most of the family began packing up to go home. Sarah, who was watching and keeping an eye on me, teased me, saying, you're the worst patient, restless, impatient, and as stubborn as a bull. She joked, you're about to get a bad reputation if you don't calm down. Good to hear my mom's doing well, I replied. Sarah nodded, handing me my phone, which was buzzing with messages from her kids. When does she get her engagement ring? Dad read one. When do we get to meet our new sisters? She said, reading the messages. That they've always seen you as their dad, and most of their friends wish their dads were like you. I could see tears welling up in her eyes as she looked at me. It looks like we're not in for a long engagement, I said, smiling, that I hadn't heard from the twins. I asked Emma and her mom. She replied that Anna was doing well, considering everything. She's still a little groggy, but asking lots of questions. Emma told me about the pizza party, and she's excited about planning a girls' day with her aunt and grandmother once she's up to it. I said, let me find my pants. I want to go see her and check on my mom too. The nurses tried to stop me, saying it was too soon after surgery, but I insisted, and Sarah and I made our way down the hall hand in hand. Surprisingly, the pain was manageable the moment we entered. Anna's room, I noticed her complexion looked healthier, and the sparkle in her eyes nearly brought tears to mine. Who are Sona and Sam Russell? Emma asked, looking curious. They're my kids, Sarah replied, smiling. They're 13 and 11. Why did they both send me a friend request on Facebook this morning? Emma replied. So did Anna. You should read what they sent me, I said, handing Emma my phone. She read the message, smiling. I passed it to Anna. I'll need that back, I said, so I can add their numbers to my contacts. Diana then asked if she could speak to me privately, so we stepped out to the waiting area. Trevor, she began, I had a long talk with my mother last night. She remembered how much Dad despised you, but she never expected it to go this far. My daughters want to finish the school year here and then come live with you. They want to change. They want to change their last name to yours. They feel what Fred and I did is beyond forgiveness. Diana took a shaky breath. I can't argue with them. They've made it clear that if I refuse, they'll take it to court. They don't trust me anymore, and I can't blame them. Will you let them come? You know my family, Diana. They'd never let me refuse, no matter my feelings. I replied, I'll gladly take them in, and so will Sarah. We'll just need a bigger house. I'll drop the lawsuit against you if you agree to joint custody, but I'll keep going with the case against the rest of your family. The twins are old enough to decide. Diana nodded, agreeing to joint custody. I offered to cover the cost of their name change, but she declined. We walked back into Anna's room, and the girls looked up, watching us closely. Sarah, I said with a grin, looks like we're going to need at least a 6-bedroom. How Sarah laughed and the girls cheered. Diana smiled weakly. Girls, she said, your father and I agree you'll get what you want. If Sarah's on board, I'll call the lawyer tomorrow to start the process for your name change. Laughing, Sonia and Sam want you to adopt them too. They've already started signing their names as Williams. Call Roger at Mouser's firm to start the paperwork, then text the kids to let them know the plan. I said, let's find out which areas have the best schools so we know where to look for our new home. Emma picked up her phone and put a call on the speaker. Hello? Sonia's voice came through. Who is this and what do you want? This is Emma. You're going to be an older sister, she said with a smile. Is Sam with you? Can you prove that? Sonia asked, sounding suspicious. Dad taught us not to trust calls or messages from unknown sources without verification. Are you scamming me or something? Sarah joined in laughing. Sonia, this is Sarah. I'm marrying your dad. You're talking to Trevor's daughter, Emma. Soon we'll all be Williams. Emma and Anna are changing their last names, and your dad has already. I've started the adoption process for you and Sam. It was about time. Sam said, how's Anna doing? Sarah and I shared a smile. We were listening to the kids. She squeezed my hand. It was our first real moment as a blended family. I'm doing better, Anna replied. Her voice was bright. I'll send you a text so you can save my number. Emma, Anna, our dad's the only father we've ever known, Sonia said. Her voice was sincere. Mom's loved him for years. When we get together, we have to accept that we're all siblings now. Nothing more and nothing less. Sam and I won't let anything come between them. My daughters quickly agreed, and Sarah, wiping away tears, looked at me. They've got your value and sense of family, she whispered. You should be proud. We said our goodbyes for now and headed to visit my mom. My dad was with her, and they looked surprised when we walked in. You're up and about already, I said. Have you? I've seen Anna and she's looking a lot better. Yes, we saw her, my mom replied. Her color's coming back and she seems brighter, but it's early yet. We need to have a serious family conversation if you're up for it. I said, I'm not going anywhere. Dad replied, let's hear it. Anna and Emma will be moving in with me after the school year. They'll be changing their last name to ours. Diana agreed to join custody, and the girls insisted on the name. Change. That's wonderful news, my parents said, grinning. That's not all, Sarah added, smiling. Your son has finally decided to make an honest woman out of me. Elizabeth, are you ready to help plan the wedding? My mom teared up and my dad grinned, clearly approving. I'll be adopting Sonia and Sam, so they'll take my last name too. I said, Sarah and I will start looking for a new house as soon as we get back. What finally knocked some sense into you? My dad asked, laughing. Have you thought about the wedding plans? We all knew how he felt about her. I've been trying to get your mum's approval to give him a talking to for years. Carl, behave yourself, my mum said, chuckling. Sarah, have you thought about the wedding plans? We haven't planned much yet. Sarah replied, since we're blending families, we should make it a family affair. I'd love for Claire to be my maid of honor. Trevor's best man will be his brothers-in-law as ushers, Anna and Emma as bridesmaids, Sonia as the flower girl, and Sam as the ring bearer. Dad, would you walk me down the aisle with my father? My dad grinned. It depends on who's footing the bill, and if the reception bar's got a good stock of Jim Beam. It's perfect. It'll bring us all together. If that's what you want, let's make it happen. Should we invite Diana? My parents are against it, but I'm going to go ahead anyway. I'm suing the federal government, Diana's parents, and her husband. I think Diana was as much a victim as I was. I paid the price years ago, and now Diana's facing consequences. I bet she thinks she's lost her daughters forever. Inviting her might help her reconnect with them and allow everyone to move forward. Sarah and my parents looked at me, surprised. Where did that wisdom come from? I got the idea from my dad. He was genuinely curious. These past few days have taught me a lot, I replied, squeezing Sarah's hand. Emma's arrival reminded me what life is all about. We returned to my hospital room, and I quickly fell asleep, drained from the surgery. Sarah stayed by my side watching the news. Fred Bright had been arrested. The guy who put a contract on my life told the FBI I lied to them, so they made him state evidence. My lawyer released details of me being fired from the FBI, which led to an internal investigation. When I woke up, Sarah filled me in. Dr. Hunt said my mom and I would be discharged the next day. You'll need to follow up. UPS to remove the stitches. He said Anna is doing better than expected. The big question is how she'll respond as we gradually reduce her medications. We talked with my parents, who decided to stay in the city until Anna was stable. They'd fly back with us on the private jet, while the bus driver would head back on his own over the next few days. The media spent hours analyzing the lies, betrayal, and political schemes that had led to the breakdown of my marriage and career. A full day was dedicated to exposing how Diana's father had got her to believe some pretty outlandish rumors. She was being held to account for every misstep in the public eye. Sarah and I went to visit her one last time before we headed home. Dr. Hunt was pleased to announce that she was well on the road to recovery. The security team released my publisher, and I had been waiting for this. It was probably thanks to someone not liking the negative press surrounding the government's past dealings with me. Within 2 weeks, over 1 million copies would hit the market. The editions arrived overnight, and after I signed them, Sarah wrapped them in a shopping bag. We made sure Emma was in the room when we arrived. "Your dad and I have set a wedding date for the first weekend in August," Sarah said, smiling. "Your Aunt Clay will be my maid of honor, and I'd love for you two to be my bridesmaids." Anna's face lit up. She exclaimed, "Absolutely." When I first showed up in Dad's office, I was terrified, but you recognized me right away and said, "You must be Diana's daughter." It stunned me, and you accepted me. "I'd be honored to be in your wedding, and I'd love to call you Mom." The three of them hugged, and it was great to see Anna practically leap out of bed with excitement when things quietened down. I handed each of them a signed first edition of my book, inscribed with, "For one of the 2 brightest stars in my life who calls me Dad with love, Logan Hawthorne, Trevor Williams," and brackets. Anna's face lit up as she unwrapped her copy, amazed by the gift. "This is the biggest one yet, over pages." She flipped through it. She opened the cover, read my note, and started crying. "Dad, you've done so much already. I didn't need this. In just 6 days, she's gained LB." I held Anna close, reflecting on how grateful I was. "Emma, you and the family brought me back to life," I said, my voice thick with emotion. Speaking of Mum, she's filed for divorce and is in therapy now, dealing with years of deception. "She understands what you went through and is deeply ashamed," Emma replied. "It's something only someone who's been through it can fully grasp. It'll take her time to learn to trust again," I replied, nodding. "Family support can only do so much. Sometimes you have to take a leap of faith when it comes to trust. For me, that leap was when Emma walked through my office door." "Thank God you did," Sarah added with a smile. "I was afraid I'd end up an old maid waiting for you to come around. Now, girls, stand by your dad so I can get a few photos," Sarah said, taking out her phone. "I'm framing the best one for his desk." When we stepped off the plane, we were greeted by Sarah's parents and kids. Sonia and Sam nearly knocked me down with excitement, and their joy was contagious. My dad couldn't stop. They were all really happy to see me, especially Sam, who called me Dad. His family is just like mine, with 2 older sisters and 1 younger one. Sonia gave my mom a hug and said, "I'm so happy you're going to be my grandma now." I thought about how quickly life had changed, with unexpected blessings at every turn. Sarah and I decided to put off any major plans until after the wedding. I trusted Sarah to handle the new house search, which meant I could start writing my first fiction book. My previous works had been exposés on corruption and cover-ups. But this was different. We stayed in touch with the twins, and Sarah found a beautiful 20-acre property with a barn that needed a bit of work. Anna continued to improve, returning to school part-time. We hired a firm to design the house. It's steel and brick construction with an outdoor kitchen, a spacious patio, a pool, and a 4-bay garage. Sarah reduced her office hours. I worked closely with an editor on my new book. I managed to write over 300 pages. I decided to publish it under my real name. Diana used my lawyer to finalize her divorce from Justin. She secured alimony and coverage for education costs. My legal cases went into mediation. The opposition lost their resolve. Sonia, Sam, Sarah, and I eagerly awaited. The twins arrived after their last school day. Sam spotted them pulling up the new driveway, and we all went outside to greet them as they stepped out of the Explorer. I could hardly tell Anna and Emma apart. Anna's recovery was so remarkable. Sarah whispered, "We'll figure out who's who." Sam was taking his role as big brother seriously and grabbed their luggage as Sarah showed them around the new house in my office. There were 3 copies of my latest book, The Heart Remembers, on my desk. It was a fictionalized version of our own story,